Hello and welcome to another episode of the Marketing Mavericks show. My name is Chris.
Hi, Waseem.
Hey, I'm Mika.
And today we have a special episode. It's the 10th one we do. And first of all, we really appreciate the feedback of everyone. And that's obviously why we're doing it. And if that's obviously the first thing I want to say. We're now doing it just for a few months, but already at show 10. And to kind of take that to the next level with this episode, we thought we'd bring a guest on. So it's the first time we have someone else on the show. And it's someone that I just recently met here in the new office where we are based in London. His name is Miguel Heinonen. He is a tech entrepreneur. He has built a careers platform to make it easier for anyone to find jobs in any location worldwide. So we're basically going to talk about his story. He has a pretty interesting background on how he got into entrepreneurship, how he got into the tech environment. But the most important and most, let's say, fascinating thing for me was when he showed me his email marketing process here in the office, which is a pretty impressive thing, pretty sophisticated process. So we're going to make the show related to cold email marketing, outreach, and hope to really learn a lot of great lessons. So yeah, first of all, welcome to the show, Miguel.
Hey, thank you very much.
Oh yeah, one more thing I should say. Miguel is mostly called by everyone Mika, so we're going to use that name Mika today. Yeah, just skipped my mind. Yeah, okay, first of all, what would be really interesting to hear is how did you get into entrepreneurship and now to the point where you're running your own tech company in London?
I would owe actually a lot of it to my best friend, Justin, but I went to military school in Texas and for high school, and I was pretty sure I was going to enlist. And he filled out my application to the same university that he was going to. And he was like, hey, I'm filling your college and you're doing entrepreneurship and business administration. And I knew that Johnson was a culinary school. So I thought, entrepreneurship was cooking. And it was a great opportunity to go in. But once I got to school, I understood it was business courses. So yeah, that's I went from there. I graduated in 2009. Terrible time to try and look for a job. Went back to school almost immediately. I got my MBA. And as soon as I graduated, I came here to the UK. I got a couple of jobs in different industries. First job was construction. That wasn't for me. I have, that was definitely not for me. Then I somehow ended up being a property service charges accountant. But it was a great job because I learned a lot about mass data, which is important for outreach and also, how to, manipulate large amounts of data. So that was great, but I really just wanted to get in the tech industry. So I fought my way in.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I think there's quite a few things which I want to ask based on that story, because I always feel there's a disconnect between the degrees, the university degrees, and the real stuff which happens in the real world. When you finished your MBA, did you find that what you learned in MBA was actually applicable to what you actually did now, or what you have done so far?
To be honest with you, I just took any job that would give me money to fund my idea,
Yeah.
and I remember, to becoming a service charges accountant, I remember they asked me, do you know what a pivot table is? And I was like, of course, and I had to YouTube it the next day, and I couldn't believe I got the job, but, they spent a lot of time with me. They taught me a lot, but like most young people, when they graduate college, they try to take any job that pays, and especially since '05, it's not the same type of landscape where you have an MBA, doors open, everyone has an MBA now, but as soon as I always just took the job because it paid and that always funded my ideas, so yeah.
Okay, nice. And coming from that point when, at that sort of market situation where people took any job that was out there to now you running a tech startup, what's motivating you, or what motivated you to make that step to really, to take things in a different direction?
I mean, money is always going to be a good motivation, but I from a young age, when I was when I was naughty, I got yelled at. I got yelled at military school when I made a mistake, and I definitely deserved it. But then I remember after getting work, I remember I once got yelled at by some finance director of something my predecessor did years ago. And I remember thinking, fuck this. I really don't want to have like a boss ever again. So I started looking for contract jobs. So I became, started working for myself. I created my first entity. Then I definitely wanted to build my own startup. I got some funding for that startup. I totally destroyed this startup by not knowing how to do mass outreach, which now I have those skill sets, to especially to generate my own leads and to connect with those leads. But I always just wanted to be independent and not really have to have a boss.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense.
Okay. Because obviously, I don't know much about you, and that's probably how most of our visitors kind of don't know the story behind why you created this startup. So can you please tell us more about what you have built and what was the impetus as well?
Sure. So again, I was saying earlier that I graduated. I really did want to get into the tech community, but I took the first job, and at that point, I was really going down like the finance road, and it's not where I wanted to be. And at night I used to go home and I used to use the big portals in the UK like Reed and Hayes, and I used to fill out jobs so like like finance related roles in tech companies, and it was really annoying because a lot of these like job portals don't tell you. They just say our client is looking for an operations analyst because they don't want to lose the lead. That's how they get paid. So, then I'd built earlier a platform that was like Uber, but for employment, which every new tech guy does. They try and build something just like Uber. So started working with these guys in London. They taught me like, hey, man, the money is with B2B. So I switched the business model and then started showcasing all the jobs on a map, and where end users could filter the type of roles they're looking for, the type of companies they're looking for. So that's how I ended up building Heirizon, which is a very end user focused platform for people looking for jobs, especially in the tech community.
Yes. So you would say the USP you have that makes you different is the end user focus, and that the tool can be used in location based. Are you operating globally with that tool?
Yeah, we are. Surprisingly, we're actually pretty hot right now, and I've been focusing a lot of my efforts here in Europe and in the US, but the places that were really popular where people are starting to post jobs is in Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore. These are big tech areas as well. So it's because we have no borders. As soon as you go to the page, it shows you jobs within like 7 miles of your location. So it's a borderless platform.
Okay. And what was I think that most probably comes back to your story. How did you move to the UK and why did you make that move?
Oh, like every graduate, when you need a place to crash for a couple of weeks, and it was at my mother's house in Oxford, and the neighbor was like, "Hey, do you want to earn some cash for a couple of weeks?" So that was in the construction, and then I got a job between London and Oxford, being that service charges accountant. But I always end up back here. I'm a European as well. My father is a Finn. So I have a Finnish passport. That's how I can live here in Europe. And then I switch. Before COVID, I would be in California and then come back over here to switch because I can work from anywhere. But obviously, since COVID, I've been in the UK a little longer.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what obviously is really interesting to hear is that you said, for example, the first startup you worked on didn't work out because of we didn't have the skills for, let's say, the outreach part, right? That's, I think, what you said. Let's say, speaking about email marketing outreach, who gave you that idea? How did you get into that field to use email for prospecting, and who learned you this important skill?
Actually, I learned from these two German guys. And I remember, because I had my own failed tech startup, but I still, I remember thinking I know a lot about tech. And these two guys, within the first 2 weeks, I realized I don't know jack. And they spent like a year with me teaching me all these tricks, all these tools, lead generation, understanding B2B, how to track sequences. And they just taught me so much. They invested a lot of time in teaching me like all the skill sets that I have. And, we met here in a co-working space. I always hear people from my ear and they're trying to do outreach. I always go to the table like, whoa, guys, before you start, let me just understand, don't do damage to your domain. Make sure you have separate IPs. So that's how we met. You were asking about lead generation. And these two guys really spent a lot of time teaching me all these tricks. And, now, I'm an advisor to a couple of companies that, helping, make the wheels turn and with lead generation and outreach.
And do these, were they friends or were they like somebody who you paid to?
No, these guys were my boss.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just took an operations role, and they were like, hey, you seem to know about tech. You're going to do all the outreach now. So I was like, cool. So, and I tell you what, really, really fortunate, and every now and then I call them up still, I'm still, there's always something new. So I always call them up. I'm like, hey, what are you doing different now? This is what I'm doing. And can you give me any tips? And they've given me some tips. And now I'm hopefully, I'm at that point now where I can start teaching other people.
I can really resonate with that, and I'm sure Waseem, you as well. Like, there's sometimes people that help you or that open your mind to a certain area in marketing, and on both sides. I certainly had that. Let's say working for other companies regarding SEO, where I learned a lot. Obviously, I learned a lot from you, Waseem, and so on. But it's also then about sharing that. That's why we're doing the podcast, and then also there's also one of the things that really motivate us, I think, speaking for all of us, probably just to help other people, let's say, to bring more people into the company and so on. So that's super great and I think we can all relate to that. So let's in terms of email marketing, let's take an example of a B2B company that has never really done that or tried that just briefly and then stopped it. Where would they start? Like a small to medium-sized business, how much money do they need and how much resource do they need?
With resources, one person can do it, but it's a good idea to understand the foundation of doing outreach. Like, one, you don't want to damage your domain. So, just because you're given a list of like, say, 1,000 emails that you pay someone on Fiverr to create for you, and you have 1,000 emails, I guarantee you that only, 40% of them will go through. 20% would be, risky emails, and then the rest are probably unusable. So first, if you're looking at budget and you want to start small, have about $200. Use a tool called reply.io. It's a great tool that you can manage sequences. So email 1 will go out on day 1, email 2 will go out on day 5, email 3 on day 12. It's a great tool. Great, you can connect it to SendGrid, like other SMTP platforms that will, have their own IPs that won't damage your Gmail or your Exchange. So, it's just a good idea to have an understanding of how your email outreach can affect your domain, and that's the one thing that you want to protect.
Okay, and is that your process? Like, if you want to break down your process, if you had to explain it to somebody new in, let's say, marketing, because, for example, I will take my own example where I've never done outreach. So what would be my first step? How would I start doing outreach?
Well, again, it's about understanding to protect your domain. Have you ever had a new domain and all your email ended up in spam?
We had that issue with a different domain, but not for my, because I own an agency and we never done cold outreach in our agency model, but we've done emails through lead gen, which is our SaaS, and we had issues with deliverability, with like going in spam and all those things.
Yeah, so this is like the main question that I would always tell people, like, this is what you want to avoid. So if you don't understand about why that's happening, you should not do outreach,
Right.
And this is what I always tell people, and I try and explain to them, like, this is why you cannot have emails that have a high chance of ending up in spam. So, you have two types of bounces. It's called a soft bounce and a hard bounce, right? And when the email is completely wrong, that does damage to your domain, and then you're labeled as a spammer. So next time you send like an invoice from your Gmail, it's just going to go right into spam. You're not going to get paid. You're losing your the ability to connect with your current paying vendors. So this the first thing is to learn about that. Once you have an understanding about your foundation, how to protect yourself from this happening, and how to warm up your domain, how to warm up also your IP addresses, because you can't just blast. You have to warm everything up, and cyclically as well. So once you have an understanding of that foundation, then I would say, okay, now you can start doing outreach and, start A/B testing 2 different email templates, look at the data saying, hey, we typically get most responses on like day 5 or, or day 12 of like an email campaign. So then you just scale it up. Once you figure out like, okay, hey, this template seems to work out really well, then start scaling up. But it's all about testing. You need, I always say, it's good to have a good amount of volume just to understand the data.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who's saying, I prefer to do inbound marketing. I don't want to touch outbound. I don't want to touch, reaching out to a lot of people that I don't know that might not have an interest. What would you say to those marketers and businesses?
Inbound marketing, I think, is just as important as outreach, because you spend a lot of time to get people to go to your site. And then if you don't collect those leads, you're losing a huge opportunity. I mean, there are many people that have custom chatbots, like Calendly links, like contact forums of how to do it. So yeah, I would say that, you should spend just as much thought on like getting people to come to your domain. And also, to be honest with you, everyone knows a templated, email. I get loads of emails and I know they've not checked my LinkedIn and I know they haven't read my articles, but I still go to their website and sometimes I do fill out a form. So I think they're both just as important.
I think when Chris said there are some marketers, he was probably like pointing at me.
Yeah, correct.
I think, to be honest, that is me, because I am a bit worried about these cold emails, because I get them regularly and I get annoyed by them. But I know there's a fine act of making sure you give value and you kind of somehow don't come across spammy. So that's one thing which I would understand a bit more, like how do you avoid that issue? But the first important question is the legality of like how you send emails. How do you get these emails in the first place, and how does GDPR apply to this whole situation?
I mean, obviously, GDPR has made it a lot more difficult, but if it is for a business purpose, that is within the guidelines. I'm not selling, like Viagra or hormones from Mexico. These are, legitimate business emails that we do send out. And, we always make sure that we give them the ability to unsubscribe, and that's one key rule, is that you always give the end user the ability to unsubscribe. And if they ask questions, how you got my email, as a data officer, I would tell them, well, this is how I got your lead. I used it over here. My apologies. I'll unsubscribe you and feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. And sometimes I would ask you like, hey, can you find a way of getting my email off these lists? And I would contact like the vendor of where we got like the lead from. I mean, you have tools like Hunter, for example, which would actually find the email that's, on multiple platforms as where it's been scraped, and then it will also verify the email. So, that's a tool that we do use sometimes as well.
Yeah, so you already mentioned a few tools like reply.io and Hunter. What's like an overview of the tools that make up this process that you run?
You mean like my outreach stack?
Yes, outreach stack.
So reply.io, which is a great tool. It's also really cost effective. I mean, there's some really expensive tools out there. Very scalable. I'm going to throw in a guy's name right now, but there's a guy called Niche. And if you email him, he's always trying to get startups to use his platform. It's a great guy, and it can also help you set everything up. The other tools that I do use is SendGrid. I would advise, getting the paid tier. It's actually very cheap. For like 40,000 emails, it's like $15. We spend about $89 at Heirizon, and that comes with one dedicated IP, and we have another IP address for like the riskier emails. And so yeah, and those two are like the most important ones. I've got to the point now that I can do my own scraping and my own lead gen, so I don't really need to pay for that. And that's a great skill set to have. I think that's what I'm trying to show many people here at the office, and what I was trying to show you as well, is that you need, especially when you want to do outreach, you need the skill sets to generate your own leads and not constantly buy them, because it's a volume game, and more importantly, you can't depend on other people constantly deduping your lists, because you don't want like to have duplicates. You want to do all the verification yourself. It's a lot cheaper. So I always show people how to set up their outreach tools, and then I show them how to scrape for leads, that obviously fits their market. So for us, we're just trying to contact like HR agents. Pretty simple. But there are many other people who have different types of like a criteria of like their prospects.
And you mentioned obviously this reply.io, SendGrid. How do you like track everything? Is there like some kind of a dashboard or report which sits on top?
Yeah, I that's why I come in on the weekends as well. It's just to look at my data, to see where I dropped the ball. Sometimes I just don't have a good list, and I know like, okay, I'm going to opt these people out. I also look. So actually, this is probably a good one for you guys. Everyone, when you send out like mass emails on like with Gmail, for example, right? On the domain, you have to add records to authorize the mail platform to send out your emails. So everyone has SPF and DKIM, which is pretty simple. They're just records you add. The new one, which especially after COVID hit, a lot of people, and you can tell a lot of people haven't put it on their records, is called DMARC. And this sends you a report every time you reach another domain. You send an email to another domain. And I just check those, every week at the weekend, and I just see like, this went through. Nothing was on my end has failed in like authorization checks. So I spend a lot of time just making sure that all the domains have allowed me to, send emails to them.
Yeah, so I noticed that I've played around with or tried to set up the DMARC as well for our emails, and then I always got those verification emails like this, as you say, coming in all the time. Is there any way to turn that off, or would you even say it's important to keep getting them?
I mean, so when you put like the DMARC record, you have to put in your email, right? And the agent told me, yeah, put your email or any email. And I regret that, because now my email box is flooded every morning with thousands of DMARC reports, and I just now have a filter that I take them all out, and I check randomly, 20, 50, but have like a separate email called like DMARC at domain.com and just have them sent there. It's so annoying. I regret it, but I might as well. We're a small team, so I gotta do my work myself.
Okay, that's cool. And are you still going deep into this topic, or are you now going more, let's say, vertical, or not horizontal, in a way that you want to learn more skills which are maybe related to cold outreach? Or do you think there's still areas which you haven't mastered yet?
I mean, when it comes to outreach, I would say I'm a Jedi master. I am pretty good at what I do there. There are other things that I want to do, but obviously, I have a lot of work, and it's just probably not the right time to be learning on the spot right now. I'm more concerned about, optimizing my platform, generating more leads. We are an employment platform, so it's all about content for us. We need more and more content. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been building Python scripts to automate a lot of my work. And I paid a developer $50 to build me this Python script, and it's turned like 3 days worth of work into 1 hour, and I'm pretty excited to go test it out later. But yeah, automation is always key, and that's something I'll spend time to learn. Well, actually, in this case, pay someone else to to do it on my behalf.
Yeah, that's great. Would you say there's ever a time when a lead becomes too cold? Let's say when there's, for example, no action taken, someone doesn't respond, or would you say there's always a case in some way to keep following up with that lead?
I mean, you got to look at the data, right? Like it changes. For example, if you look in your outreach tools, if the person's opened the email, you can start gauging. So like on day 1, he read the email. On day 2, he read it twice, and it shows you, because it has installed. Well, in these email outreach tools, it gives you the option to put a smart pixel, and it's like, and basically when a person opens it, it loads up, and then it lets the server know that, okay, this person's actually opened up the email. So it gives you the data to say, okay, well, this guy is a really hot lead because this guy opened it 25 times. So he may be curious. So it just really depends on if there's interest or not. You'll be able to gauge it.
Yeah.
Okay, and what happens in the scenarios where people do unsubscribe and they mark it as spam? How long does it take to get the domain blacklisted, or does marking as spam actually mean anything bad?
Well, it's a tough question. I mean, obviously that's the worst, when someone labels you as spam, because
Right.
there's a tool called Glock Apps. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
No.
Yeah.
it's a really important tool because it will let you know. Domains also can get like a reputation. That's why, like, if you have a brand new domain, don't use it. You have to warm up a domain as well, and IP addresses are very similar as well. So IP addresses tend to get like really penalized. So I would suggest that it's going to happen, but also if you have a good reputation as well, and you're known for sending maybe like 100,000 emails, it's not really going to affect you. It's about having a good reputation with your 99%. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure every now and then someone's flagged me as spam, but because I have a good reputation, it shouldn't really affect.
So when you say reputation, who's kind of managing this reputation? Like, who is the authority here?
I mean, pretty much there are many tools that track these IP addresses, right?
Okay.
So say that like Heirizon has like a server outreach tool that sends out emails, and the IP address is 192.28.006, and it's sending out loads of emails, and all the spam assassin filters say, okay, any email that comes from 1.92.168, that's a spammer. Put him in the spam junk mail, right? So there are many tools out there, and they're very public with, they give you the information, so you can always test it, like using Glock Apps. But that's why I was saying it's really important to have a good reputation, saying we're on zero, our IP address is on zero bad lists. And that's also the thing is, you can also buy new IP addresses. This is the great thing as well. You need to warm them up. So I would say anything under 100,000 emails, you only need one IP address. If you're sending more than that, then get two. And then, it scales up, and obviously just keep testing these IP addresses on like these, like Glock Apps, for example. And if it says like, hey, this IP address has been, flagged. Yeah, exactly. And this is the other thing. When you're using Gmail, for example, and that's a Gmail IP address, other people are using that same IP address because it's on the same network. So you may be using your domain. So it's, that's why I always tell people, get a dedicated IP address, because that's yours and no one can cause damage to it as well.
So in the campaigns you currently run, what sort of call to action do you place?
I mean, really, I'm just trying to get them to list on Heirizon, and I try and make it really personalized. So I go, hi, first name. I'd really love to list company name, and then it imports company name, and it's like, hey, I'll be free next Tuesday. I'm taking the day off. I'd love to set up a call just to explain to you how we can onboard you on our platform, and it's absolutely free to use, and I'll just show you how to post the jobs to the remote page, to the local, and to manage your own listing. So, I'm not really trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to help them get more, jobs to their ATS, and it's good for me as well because I generate more traffic. And I let them know this is absolutely free. I just would love to be known as an authority for tech jobs. So you'd be helping me out as well.
Yeah. So basically, you're inviting them on a call with a short line of text, right? So you're not straight away sending them to a booking link. So that sort of manual way still performs better, right? Rather than saying, here, you can book a time slot.
Yeah, exactly. And some people tell me like, yeah, sure, or hey, just call me on WhatsApp, and I immediately call. So yeah.
Okay, and that kind of leads me to this question of what was like the best performing campaign for you so far, and what have you learned from it, and also the worst performing, and what have you learned from it?
To be honest with you, I play a volumes game here.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly optimizing it and A/B testing it and looking at the data. It's all the same to me. I've never really done one that's blown my mind. I've got to a point now that I'm just constantly optimizing and trying to make it better and better and better and better. And every time you do an outreach, it should get better.
So shall we expect like a playbook of email subjects and email bodies from Mika soon?
I mean, there are rules. There are definitely rules about, it would be a good idea. I'd probably write a blog probably on my personal site about like certain rules. Like, for example, you can never put in the subject like promotion deal, because that will end up immediately in spam. Too many capitalization as well on like the subject line. So, only use like, appointment with Mika. Don't put like, there are certain rules out there. But online, there's a wealth of information, that I've gone online and I've just taken, different opinions and I put it all together. And now I just, I'm quite fortunate now that I can do it with very, very little penalties.
I think that's quite important because there is obviously like a wealth of information out there, but there's also lots of, ways where you can actually mislead yourself, because you could go down a path where somebody's saying this works and somebody says, this approach works. So it's good to obviously have somebody who's authoritative to decide which of these, for example, different mechanisms or tactics actually work. I'll be very much keen to see if you can come up with that blog post where what actually works, because it's really good to learn from somebody who's done it.
Yeah, that's it's a really good point you make. Actually, there is a lot of bad information out there, actually, and that has penalized people. And that's because it's not that it's the intention to give bad, but their outreach is like they're doing probably 100 per week, and it doesn't really affect. But when that person says, well, using that information, I want to do 200, causes problems, and just by looking, say, I'm just going to go to reply and connect my Gmail. It's good in theory. So it's a great point. Yeah, there is a lot of also bad information there that has harmed people. I mean, that's why, when I walk over here and someone says like, all our emails end up in spam, I interrupt like, hey, I can help you. What's the deal? Show me, buy me a burger, and we'll settle this. That's all I ask in return. But yeah, this is my calling, help people out with not getting into spam.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a huge need. So the office I used to be before was Tech Hub, just down the road here, very close to where we are now. And it was like a community of probably, I think up to 1,000 startups. And then in the channel, there was always someone asking about email and stuff like that. So the need for information, although there's more and more information out there, the need for the right information, I think, is bigger than ever. So I think a lot of marketers would like to get into those topics. So we are trying to do that here with inbound lead generation, with conversion optimization, and then someone like you, I think, would be great to maybe find a medium to share that sort of knowledge.
Yeah, Yeah, like stuff like this. I love helping people. It's actually, as being a sales person myself on the digital side, I like calling up companies every now and then. I'm like, hey, could I talk like the head of sales? And it's not a sales call. I'd just like to know what he does different. And every now and then we kind of exchange ideas. It's a little weird. It takes some time to get used to, but I think there are many people out there. There's a great platform called lunchclub.ai. Have you heard of it?
No, I
No, I
haven't.
haven't.
It is awesome. Basically, it takes your calendar, it books you one appointment per week, and with people with similar experiences. And now I'm starting to get like appointments once a week with like people that are head of sales, and we just we shoot the shit, and yeah, it's really interesting to meet people who have a completely different experience. And sometimes like, hey, Miguel, what was that you said? What tool should I use? And sometimes I ask them like, hey, where did you generate your lead from? How did you get to those C-level execs over there? So it's very interesting. If you have a look at that, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously we understand you're like at the top of the game, but are you following anyone who's like any celebrity or any influencer who's done more than what you've done currently? Or I mean, you are the celebrity in this area.
Like, do I follow the Kardashians?
No, 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 no.
The only person that I really follow is Casey Neistat, and I love his vlogs. And actually, I started vlogging because of Casey Neistat. I was in California. I'm like, what a better place to start vlogging. And yeah, that's the only person. I have YouTube, channels that I follow. Obviously now because I'm trying to be. I mean, I have like 54 followers, and I'm pretty sure my mom's like 20 of them, with different Gmails. So I'm not really an authority, but yeah, just Casey Neistat's my favorite person. It's just it's lifestyle, and talks about tech and being a YouTuber.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's a range of different businesses listening to this that could also be interested in your career platform. So who would you say did you build this platform for? Both on the, let's say, business side and the end user side. Like who could benefit from it, and where can they take a look to check it out?
Yeah, if you just go to Heirizon, it's very simple for employers to start posting jobs. And if you're an end user looking for a job and you want to learn about the company, use Heirizon. You can actually filter down to the type of role that you're looking for. So say that I understand data in startups, or that you want to actually that you've already worked in the vicinity of like London, like say in Moorgate, it shows you where you are, and it shows you like all the jobs around you. So like Monzo is like 50 feet over there, your company is right over here at 10 Finsbury Square. It's very interesting to see the companies around you, like just around you. So on your lunch break you would say, oh, interesting, there's like a job that'd be perfect for right down the street, and I would tailor my CV for that. For employers, it's because of COVID, it's absolutely free. You don't have to pay hundreds of dollars. I mean, just to post in some of these mediums is about $250 a week. It's very expensive. Then the other opportunity that they have to go to get good candidates is to go to a recruiter, and it can cost up to 15 to 20% of the annual salary just to get it. As we were almost next to nothing, and in this case, it's free right now. So why wouldn't you list with us?
Cool. Yeah, that's very good. And I think I can definitely look at the tool and play with it a bit more. So how would you, I mean, maybe this is a blunt question, but how does it compete against Indeed, for example, or like other job portals out there?
No recruiters. You know exactly who you're applying for. You can tailor your CV. I mean, to be honest with you, when I was applying for all these jobs, and once you know who the client is, you always end up tailoring the CV. Like when I applied to that service charges accountant, I knew finally the role, and I retailored my CV. Yeah, I love the housing industry, like I love finance. This is my, so here we give the people the opportunity to tailor it specifically for the company that they're working for.
Okay, cool. So anyone interested in jobs or employers, have a look at heirizon.com. And if anyone wants to connect with you, Miguel, or Mika, I should say, what's the best platform to connect with you, or to, maybe if they have questions or anything, where can they reach out?
I mean, honestly, because I do a lot of traveling right now, I have a website actually, miguelheinonen.com. So it's just good to leave like an email request over there. I tend not to give out my email too much, but I mean, to be honest with you, if someone is good at generating leads, they will be able to find my email quite easily. It's quite obvious. But yeah, just go to my website, leave a contact form, and I'll find a way to connect.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for giving us a lot of new ideas on this marketing channel that we also have to get into a lot more.
Anytime you have questions, you know where to find me.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Thanks so much. And yes, see you next time, guys.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed the content, there's a lot more coming up, so please subscribe below.